Welcome to the Buzz with Ryda. Today we have a special guest, Joel Rosario, as the artist Tapia. How you doing today?
Well, I'm doing well. So just going along with the lines of what you was talking about, Joel Rosario, they know me as Joel Rosario Tapia, also as an author and as a speaker, but some folks know me as Chief Tureygua in terms of writing. Some folks know me as Tureygua Taino Cay when it comes to the Taino diaspora, or the place where our people are choosing to identify themselves based on tribal, familial allegiances. So, I'm here. Yeah.
Well, thank you again. Thank you for being here. So, what inspired you to writing? I know you said you're an author.
Well, writing is something that we're all taught to do. We're all instructed in doing and made to do and tested and kind of forced to do, as far as in the educational system, and something that I always took like for granted. But I started to write when I was in when I went to college, and I approached going to school after 30. So it's something that that took me a long time to actually move towards. But when I did, I kind of found it. I had always written because I was into lyricism and poetry and reading. But as far as feeling like I was worthy to write something down, I came into it from feeling empowered through education and feeling like I could identify with what I was writing, like, what I was studying. And then I realized that it's not really just about me, it's really more about how my perspective contributes to others' perspectives, how that contributes to other people with the same backgrounds as me, with an understanding, and kind of the underserved minority populations, like, as far as our community. So
Right.
that's why I got into it. And I've always just had a lot to say. I've always had a lot to say when it comes to my views. So I just felt like naturally from writing rhymes, really how I really started writing, all the way to telling my story in other ways. It just opened up a world for me, hip hop.
So, and how long have you been writing? At like, what age did you start?
I probably started writing creatively at
Mhm.
about 11 years old, 11,
Okay.
12. And I started doing that because I was in school and I was an artist, and I knew other kids that would make comic books. And so we started making comic books. And then by that time I was already into like graffiti. So like that was a form of writing creatively. So
Correct.
that's where I started. I started from art and trying to tell stories.
So, if you wasn't doing art or music, what would you be doing?
Idea at all. No idea at all, because I feel like creativity and being a creator and having a unique view and being able to push that forward and to pay it forward, is my purpose for existence. It's my purpose for being myself. It's my purpose for my pain and my purpose
Mhm.
for lessons and my triumphs. You know what I'm saying? So it's the only thing that I know, which is to process and to then create from the process, from all of the experience. That's all I know. So I really wouldn't really see any other reality for myself other than
Writing.
processing, helping to pay it forward to the nation, creating art from what I've experienced, talking about my perspective, and trying to give my little sauce to it, and saucing up my designs and selling that and moving that forward. It's all part of creating. That's it for me.
That's very true. So, what advice would you give a writer, a new writer, just starting out? What kind of advice would you be able to give to them?
Say is that practice. Everything is practice. Everything is your practice. Like whenever you decide that you want to do anything, even if you're doodling, that's your practice of doodling. You know, like, but if you just kind of that presence, like say it's a practice, then you take it a little bit more seriously, you grow and you keep expanding. So it's about writing. It's about flexing the muscle that you want to develop. You know what I mean? Doing the
Right.
exercises that leads to you becoming better and better and differentiating yourself from others, you know, so that you can your own thing, you know. So that's
Correct.
it. Just write. You know what I mean? If you want to write, write. If you want to draw, draw. If you want to paint, paint. If you want to dance, dance. But you know, don't make any excuses or let anybody stop you from doing what you do.
Correct. Correct. There's a lot of dream killers out there as well. So
Of
always got to
course.
keep your mind up on that. So did you ever have to deal with writer's block? And if so, how did you deal with that?
Yeah. Of course. At different times I've had to deal with it. I've had to deal with kind of the feeling stunted, but the only way to deal with anything is to keep living, to live more, to get new experiences, to go out and inspire yourself by putting yourself around energy that you ain't used to. Cause that's why you get writer's block, because you use it's the same old, same old. You need some inspiration, right? Like so go get inspired, you know. You gotta go and find new experiences, new things to do, new information, new subject matter. It's about learning more. And as long as you continually you can never feel stagnated. You know, it's stagnated. You gotta continue to like expand your own mind, you know, and the more it gets, the more you produce, you know.
What, in your opinion, are the most important elements of a good writing?
Well, it depends on the genre of the writing. You know, I'm not really a fictional writer, so I can't really talk about um, developing characters in that kind of way, or plot lines, or so much the protagonists and antagonists, the normal ways that people set up stories. What I do is I talk about my perspective, and
Right.
then I also document and I deal with anthropology. I deal with the study of records. So then I report that. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to my kind of writing, it's about objective reality, like creating the idea of a construct of something that exists. And here's the story about it. Here's a description of it. Here's what it's about. Here's something that happened. Here's how it happened. Here's everything around it. And it's like a report, you know? So
Right.
it's kind of like it's almost like journalism a little bit, but when it comes to history, and also when it comes to reflections about history, or about conditions in our society, you know, so it's a different kind of writing as opposed to creative fictional writing. So
Okay.
you know, when it comes to that, it's just about being able to tell a story clearly, objectively, and in a way that educates the reader.
Gotcha. So, what does your artwork like? What do you aim for it to say to people?
Um, I aim for it to help people to reflect. My artwork is my own perspective. It's my own take on something. It's like my philosophy expressed in images that I can create on a medium and someone else. What I aim for it to do is to help them to reflect on their own reality. You may not have the same cultural reference that I have. You may not have the same reference or idea or conception of race based on the fact that I'm in my body and I've experienced my life up to now in my body, perceived by the world the way that I am, and you're in yours, you know. But I aim for it to help to create those conversations internally that help people to heal past the pain of of being in America as underserved populations, as the groups that are at the bottom, as opposed to being the groups that are advantaged, the disadvantaged populations, which generally are the indigenous American populations. They're the populations of the people that are from these territories, that have the history here, that are, who Columbus came and encountered. And we're still at the bottom of this whole colonial experiment because it was created to empower them. But what we're doing now is trying to create a new reality. So,
That's what I was just going to ask you. How does your artwork comment on current social and political issues that's going on?
Well, comment on everything. Like, for example, the show that I have forthcoming, which is called Kiss the Girls, and there's also a book entitled Kiss the Girls, which is being released simultaneously. It'll probably be up in the next 48 hours on Amazon.com. It's in the review process. But when it comes to the way that I talk about my relation to the world, I talk about it in terms of relationships. And so Kiss the Girls is about relationships. It's about the male to female relationships. It's about the individual to family, individual to institution relationships, when it comes down to government, educational institutions, and society. It talks about all these things different ways, figuratively through images. So in order for folks to really get an idea and feel that energy, they got to see it. So February 14th, we're going to go live also. That's another thing that we're going to do as part of the premiere of Kiss the Girls, is that we're going to host a conversation, and I'm going to talk about the pieces. But essentially, we're talking about relationships, but from an urban Aboriginal perspective, from an indigenous American perspective of the Aboriginal cultures, or the original cultures before colonization, of our ways that we choose to identify ourselves as people of color related through many different backgrounds. So I'm talking about how our children are influenced. I'm talking about how our male and female relationships are influenced in this idea of society that we have, but also how it affects the child and the family, and how it affects the community. So, I talk about it in a lot of different ways, but one thing people can check out if they get a chance and they're in Rhode Island, or they can check out the University of Rhode Island. They may have images that are simulcast for a recent show that I'm featured in, which is about change makers in Rhode Island and standing up and demonstrating. And I have some pieces featured in there that go specifically to the heart of that, but it's like, you got to see the images to perceive it, to get the feeling from it. So I won't try to say what it has unless you can see it and view it, but I can share that with you, and you can, maybe flash that in or include it as links,
Of course. Now let's get into your music. When did you first start doing music, and who got you into music?
Always been into music, just coming from our like my background. In the family, whether it was in church, was just in the world, music has always been an important thing. And so that's how I started to understand just life, and through rhythm. And so I've always been that. And in the 90s, I got really into, I've always felt hip hop. I was into that since I was a kid, just because it was what the culture that was around. And so I got into that. Early 90s, was writing already raps as little kids. And then, we started to build ciphers, and then I got into hip hop and got into b-boying. And I was a professional b-boy when I was a teen. Like, I was touring the region doing that. And so it was just a natural flow from the elements of hip hop, when I started to understand. My whole reality is understanding hip hop and who did hip hop and who was like me that did hip hop, and how our people, like we felt like our people, because we knew what we were doing if we was breakdancing, or we knew what we was talking about if we was talking about graffiti or rap or the music, the sound of it, the DJ, and all that, like all those elements. influenced me and got me into creating and the cultural practice of hip hop, which led to, you know, my career, my livelihood, my view in the world, and why I write and why I create and paint and all that kind of stuff. So hip hop.
Who is your biggest influencer?
Well, I got it. I guess it depends, but I don't really have just one influence. My influence is learning. It's continuing to learn. It's continuing to learn more and more about my people, more and more about the history of our people, more and more about my ancestors, more and more about how our people relate to the outside, you know, and why I am who I am physically,
Correct.
why I am who I am from my ancestors, you know,
Mhm.
and that's my influence, is learning more about that and telling the stories that haven't been told and the potential that that holds to do more, be more, and to know more. And yeah, that's mainly my influence. But when it comes to, like, as far as Taino studies and studies about our culture, my influences have to do with some of the American Indian movement, the Taino revival movement, the Hatiboniku tribe of Puerto Rico, the United Taino Confederation, the United Confederation of Taino Peoples,
Mhm.
um, the recent projects that have to do with language, with Yale University, with Miguel Sagwe, with Dr. Ty Pelly, with Roberto Mucaro Barrero, and with folks like the chief, one of the main chiefs and the folks from Hatibonico, and there's been so many folks there that it's not just Pedro Guanacayu, but there's so much to draw from in our culture. But when it comes to like music, there's a lot of different influences, but um, you know, I come across the board with hip hop and urban genres. So, you know, rock, R&B, uh,
Mhm.
you know, all the stuff in jazz and instrumentation, and a lot of Caribbean instrumentation. I'm really influenced by a
Right.
lot of salsa, a lot of salsero, and a lot of Caribbean music, you know, not just
Mhm.
salsa, merengue,
Right.
bachata, and then from, you know, South America all the way on down to you know, the southern tip of Brazil. So, you know, it's all the genres. That's what I can say is influencing.
If you was able to collaborate with any musician, who would it be and why?
Mhm. Well, I've had a lot of thoughts, but um, I don't know if you go know one guy that I really like who's a salsa artist recently, right? His name is Pirulo. So it's a group called Pirulo y la Tribu, and they do
Mhm.
salsa, but they do, you know, very up tempo and modern kind of themes. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And he's the guy that has worked with Tego Calderon and all that kind of, you know, them
Mhm.
kind of legends. You know what I mean? So I would probably want to work with somebody like Pirulo. There's some artists that I like, or, you know, Cuban artists and all that. I like a lot of Puerto Rican artists. Pirulo is one of them, but I mean, there's a lot of urban genre folks like Daddy Yankee and all that kind of stuff, which are like the legends of the kind of the commercial world. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
I just sure, I'm not always thinking about that.
That'd be dope. You collaborating with Tego and Daddy Yankee. That'd be
Yeah,
really dope.
kind of crazy.
It would. So let our listeners know where they can reach you at and check out some of your arts, because you have a lot of nice arts that I've seen that was on Facebook.
Mhm.
So
All right, so for everybody that wants to check us out, you can go to www.tapianow.com. TAPIANOW.com. That's the platform. You can see right there all the genres that we perform in, our recent accomplishments as far as the 2020 Taino Diaspora Areito. El Areto, a celebration culturally of the Taino culture for the Taino diaspora, bringing together 5 tribal groups and also universities and institutions. You can also check out some of the recent music on the music page. I'm going to be releasing officially my newest project called Taino City Quarantine, which features, everything from hip hop, synths, all the way to live instrumentation with production by Kenny Mercado, hooks by Filbert Armenteros, and also live instrumentation by Becky Bass and a lot of, heavy musicians. So, you can get the full spectrum on tapianow.com. If you want to follow me on the IGs and the Instagram and the Facebooks, Joel Rosario Tapia on the Facebooks. On the Instagram, it's at TAPIAUNO and the number 1. But pretty much on Facebook, if you go to any of the pages that are like I Am Taino or the Sibuko Bayamon Taino Tribal Nation, Taino Tribe, you'll find us on there. We're part of something called the Federation of Aboriginal Nations of America, which is a group of 12, 13 other pre-colonial nations with their families that can trace their histories. So there's a lot of ways to find us, but the best ways are at Tapia Uno 1 or www.tapianow.com.
You guys heard it coming from Joel Rosario. Thank you so much for being here.
Buenas gracias. Ahom bomatuma wika. Gratitude, appreciation, for hosting us on The Buzz, you know what I mean, with the Ryda. Thank you very much for riding with us. I appreciate your time, and thank you. And, look for me in the future. We here.
Nada de nada.
A wave to a deluge. The war's coming, nigga. Iraq is just a prelude, and you can say who. Tureygua, let me unfold you. Soldier up, soldier status, gear, wearing apparatus, loosen my screws like mechanics turning on ratchets. Loco loquera, night vision, ojos ojeras. Whether to live, whether to die, whether to strap on my arms and just ride. I'm out to thrive, more than survive. Even the triangle out, I'm both.